Hello everybody, this is Gore Bibliophile, and today I bring you the most satisfying type of video you can get in BookTube, an UNHAUL. I am drowning in books. It was time to declutter a bit. I was going to wait until the end of the year, but I just needed to get it done ASAP. And so this is what I did. I have a pile of a lot of books, maybe about 20 or something, maybe more. And I'm just gonna fly through them. A lot of them you will have heard about already. I think all of them, because I've been doing wrap-ups or catch-ups. So yeah, let's just get into it. First of all is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World, which is a sequel to Ari and Dante Discover the Secret of the Universe, a YA book that I really love. This one, I couldn't get even halfway through. It was so bland and poorly written, and I don't know what happened. Then Gore Vidal's The City and the Pillar, which was okay. Honestly, if I was back in Santiago, I would probably not get rid of this because it is a pretty interesting book. However, as it is, I've read better, more engaging, more modern, less racist versions of small town queer person moves to the city, and especially gay men, right? There is no shortage of that narrative. And I just rather clear my shelf space for a narrative that is similar but better. Then we have Mud and Stars by Sara Wheeler. This is subtitled Travels in Russia with Pushkin and Other Geniuses of the Golden Age. This, I'm not gonna lie, kind of hurts my heart because I had such high hopes. And also I bought this, I think, in the Gutter bookshop in Dublin. I was expecting that sweet blend of personal narrative meets travel writing meets literary criticism, and the personal narrative and the biographical aspects were kind of there, but it was mostly personal narrative, not a lot of literary criticism. And I also just didn't gel with the writing very much, so I just don't see myself ever picking this up again. I will read more on Russian literature later. Speaking of, I am also getting rid of The Sinner and the Saint, Dostoevsky, A Crime and Its Punishment by Kevin Birmingham. This is so sad also because I recently made the connection that this Kevin Birmingham is the guy who wrote The Most Dangerous Book, which is a story about the publication of Ulysses, and I really want to read that book. I have faith that that might be better because I like his writing, right, a lot, but that is a more condensed, straight to the point narrative, whereas this, he was trying to make connections that were very tenuous. Anyways, I filmed not an entire review of this book only, but I had to read this book for the BookTube prize, and so down below I will link that wrap up so you can check out my full thoughts. But basically this was deeply disappointing, and it's also a chunky hardcover that I just cannot afford to keep. Not even for like the little good bits. I am also getting rid of my edition in Spanish of Kreutzer Sonata. Although I love Tolstoy, I don't see myself rereading this. And if I ever were to reread it, it probably would be in another translation, just because I like to check out different translations of classics, and especially Russian classics. And I would get probably a bind up of different novellas by him, so I just don't need this in my bookshelf at the moment. I'm also getting rid of The Golden Bowl by Henry James. Well, this is a copy I won't be selling. It was the first book I had to read for my master's, and though I really enjoyed James' prose, I think the first half of this book is magnificent. The second half is a freaking train wreck. Edith Wharton was so right when she said Henry James had created these fascinating characters and then had left them suspended in thin air. This one, I am on the fence, let's say. It's Passing by Nella Larssen, which is objectively a decent book, and I think the politics are fascinating. I still don't think it's that well written. There are sentences that just irk me, and the finale, I think it's so melodramatic, but in a way that it really doesn't work, that doesn't feel earned. And I don't know, this is a book that I enjoy talking about so freaking much, and thinking about it is also fascinating, but I have read it twice now. I don't think I'm gonna reread it. And if I did, I would probably get a copy of Quicksand, which now usually comes with passing. So although I love this vintage copy that I got secondhand, and it has this beautiful painting instead of the new picture, which is also beautiful, but this one's pretty cheeky. I like it. Honestly, just looking around at the piles and piles of books, but just seeing all of that upcoming, this does not need to be on my shelves at the moment, so it's fine. I like that this is forcing me to be ruthless. Back in Chile, it was easy for me to justify sort of lukewarm reads because it was very much like, well, I have the space, I have to fill it out. But now, space is of the essence, so... I'm getting rid of Maurice because of the same reasons, basically. Compared to Passing, this is objectively a bad book. I think it's tortured and poorly constructed. You can see that the sentence by sentence level of writing is actually quite good. I like the metaphors and I like a lot of the writing itself. I just think both the ideology of class that's presented, the point of view of class, is very problematic, but also just plot-wise, I think the book is poorly structured. I have not been saying what these things are about, but because it's an UNHAUL, should I? Never mind. You know what these things are about. I've talked about these in my wrap-ups. I will specify if I feel like I need to. I'm very sorry. These days have been very whirlwindy. My brain is all over the place. But I hope you still care why I'm unhauling these books. Maurice, it's about this gay guy who falls in love with his best friend, and then his best friend turns straight, quote unquote. Maurice is left to despair, but then he falls in love with like a working class guy, and it is famous for being one of the first queer books that purposefully had a happy ending. However, this was not published until after Forster's death, which was actually 1970 or 71. So there have been a lot of queer books written at that point. It's a whole thing in Matthew Lopez's The Inheritance, which I won't shut up about. I just love that play so much. I would kill to see it again. In any case, this book, you can feel how tortured Forster was writing it because it's a mess. And that's all I have to say about that, apart from all the other things I've been rambling about. Then I have Abstract Expressionism by David Anfam. This breaks my heart because I usually adore these Thames and Hudson editions. I think they are so nice, they are so compact, but also real quality, and they are usually super affordable. This was like £10, which for a sort of graphic book with like thick color pages, that's a good price. This was, first of all, super dry. Second of all, not very informative. It exists in a weird, awful, gooey gray space between being too advanced or too technical for people who don't know a lot about abstract expressionism. Therefore, I don't think it works as an introduction at all. But also, it's pretty basic if you already know about abstract expressionism, and it also is written in super dry prose. So I just don't need that kind of negativity in my life, and I'm not even that much of a fan of abstract expressionism. I like some of it, but I'm not like the biggest fan ever, to the point where I would collect mediocre books on it. I'm also getting rid of Basil Bunting's Brigflatts, which I know it's kind of like a classic and a lot of people have to study for, I don't know, GCSE, A-levels. It's been a year. I have a lot of friends who have gone through the British system. I am still so deeply confused. But in any case, this is an epic poem. It's fine. I don't know. I don't love it. I don't have a lot to say. The professor didn't have a lot to say, so why should I? Oh, I'm also getting rid of The Salt Path by Raynor Winn. And this is just solely because I won't reread it. I think this is a fascinating book. I don't think it's nature writing, however. I think it is travel writing with memoir. It's about this old couple who lose their home and decide to just hike it in the face of homelessness, in the face of poverty, in the face of disease. And it's fascinating. I really enjoyed reading it, and I buddy read this with Danny, so we also discussed it pretty in depth. This is one that I would have kept in Chile because I would have eventually like loaned it to someone and then never expected for it to be returned. But as I am not keeping books for that reason anymore because space is so scarce. I'm just gonna give it away. But it is a good book and I do recommend it if you're interested. I'm also getting rid of this awful copy of Ulysses. I hate this copy because it is awful in its size and I hate everything. And the reason I got this one, it's because this is the one that they asked for the masters and it didn't matter. I could have gotten any other edition. I have an edition that I love more because it is compact. It is the Wordsworth edition, which of course it's their cheap, but actually has good commentary. This comes without commentary. How can it be possible? How? The font is tiny, yet it is huge. I don't understand. I hate this book as a physical object so freaking much. I just want to get rid of it, and it freed up a ton of space in my shelf, so that's good. I am going to read Ulysses from cover to cover, but it's not going to be this edition. This is one I talked about recently in my graphic novel wrap up, link down below and in the eye as always for that, and it's just okay. I recently made like one of these stacks, but only with graphic novels, both read and unread, and it's very precarious and it's only going to get worse, so I really don't need mediocre graphic novels in my life or on my stack. So there we go. I'm also getting rid of The Wasteland, a facsimile and transcript on the original drafts, including annotations of Ezra Pound, edited by Valerie Elliott. This is honestly fabulous. Like, if you are really, really into The Wasteland, it is so fascinating. It's just that I am not that into T.S. Eliot. I already am keeping the complete poetry, even though I have no idea when I'll get to it, just because I do like T.S. Eliot's poetry. But that's enough. I don't need the full director's cut. I'm good. And then finally, oh no, not finally. I am getting rid of The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott by Zoe Thorogood. I think the art is absolutely stunning. Absolutely stunning. However, I won't ever want to reread this because of its very deeply troubling depictions of homelessness and poverty. So it just has to go. One book that for me exemplifies the menace of the meh is Ben Lerner's 1004. This is kind of autofiction. I don't know. I read it at a time in my life where I was struggling with a lot of things because of the masters and the move. I just didn't think much of it at all. I think it's a very meh autofictional book. There are so many Brooklyn novels that are so much better than this one. And I'm also getting rid of Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. I know this book will appeal to a lot of people. It's easy to read in the sense of, like, the thing that annoyed me the most about it was the prose and especially the dialogue. I understand the ideas are fascinating and I loved discussing this book and I thought it was so freaking interesting, and I love talking about the politics and even the violence depicted. A lot of people found very gratuitous, and I didn't think that was the case. I think it was very purposely. I can see how a lot of people would love Octavia E. Butler, but for me, on a writer's level, I just don't like the prose, and I'm not gonna reread this. And if I ever want to read Octavia Butler again, I'm going to read a different book. And finally, I am also getting rid of Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. I like the writing on this a lot, but it drags on and on because it's kind of this sort of episodic narrative of adventure, picaresque novel. There are these scenes. I am fascinated by them. I love the characters in those scenes. I love the experience, but then the characters leave and the main character moves on. Very like, oh, okay, well, what now? By the end, I just did not want to keep reading, and so I don't see myself rereading this book. I would read other stuff by Ralph Ellison because I do think he's a great writer. It's just that this book was not for me. So there you go. Let's count. It's 2, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. 20 exactly. There are probably going to be more in the near future. I hope you enjoyed it. Have you read any of these books? Do you want to read any of these books after hearing me trash them? Maybe you do. I hope you like this video. Tell me what you've been reading, or tell me if you've gotten rid of any books, or are you one of those people who is incapable of getting rid of books, which I get it. My dad's like that. All comments can go down below. See you next time. What am I even saying? I'm just gonna drink more coffee and say goodbye to you.